Let's do this. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Temecula City Council to order. Why don't we start with the flag salute led by Mike Nagar tonight.
Thanks. Please stand with me. Let's face the flag, recognize the principles for which she stands, and say with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike, and everybody. Shall we have roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Nagar.
Good evening.
Councilmember Ron.
Here.
Mayor Comachero.
I'm here as well. Do we have any public comment at this point?
We do not.
Okay, then we'll dispense with the reading of those rules. We only have one agenda item tonight, and that is consideration of city council vacancy. And the purpose tonight is to present all the applicants, or they will be presenting to us and to you. We will allow 5 minutes for each of those presentations, followed by potentially some questions and answers from the dais up here. There may be and there may not be, and that's okay. And then we'll continue on until such time as all 18 applicants, if they're here, have been given their time, at which time the council will go into public deliberations, we'll discuss, ultimately leading to a recommendation that we will provide to the city manager and staff. And then that recommendation would be incorporated in a staff report that would come back to us at our next regularly scheduled meeting next Tuesday night, April 28th, at which point, if that recommendation still holds, then that person would actually be appointed and be sworn in, as I understand it, that night. So that's what we're looking at. This is really a historic meeting in the city of Temecula. We haven't gone through this very often, which is just as well. But it is a very necessary process, and we're going to get through it. We may be here a while. We'll just see how that develops. So with that, we will open up the first agenda item. And Madam Clerk, if you would call the first applicant. But before that, we're going to have all of our senior staff here step down. They don't need to be up here. They can see the festivities better sitting down, with the exception of our city clerk and our city attorney, who will remain here in case there are any questions that need to be asked and answered from our professional staff. So with that, if you would call the first applicant, let's roll.
Mr. Mayor, the first applicant is Ronald Edgar Bradley.
Good evening, Mr. Bradley. I might add, just for the public's sake, that once we start the agenda item, that speaker slips can no longer be turned in. So if you haven't turned anything in at this point, other than the applicants themselves who don't need a speaker slip, then that'll be it. So, Mr. Bradley, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. First, it didn't work. I tried to change my name to Zelensky over the weekend once I got the agenda and found out I was going first.
Hold the microphone a little closer to you.
Okay.
I
Does that
know
work,
you've
Mike?
never spoken before the council before, so.
Once or twice. First of all, tell you about myself in the audience, primarily. Most important, but I've been married for 55 years to Frances. We have 2 children, 5 grandchildren. I've lived in Temecula for better than 20 years. I was educated at San Diego State University, UCLA Graduate School of Management, and Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. My private sector experience has been in the insurance industry, the banking industry, the nation's largest CPA firm, and as a development consultant. My private sector experience is as a police officer. I worked my way through college as a police officer. I've been the finance director of a city. I've been a city manager in several cities and a college instructor at San Diego State in comparative governments, municipal finance, and budgeting, and at Long Beach State in the Police Management Institute. Community activities, I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce, served on their board, served As president, I'm a member of the Temecula Murrieta Group, or Murrieta Temecula Group, and have been on that executive board and served as the president of that particular group. I've worked as a algebra mentor for the Temecula Valley School District and in several United Way campaigns. In other areas where I've lived, I've been a founding board member of a Boys and Girls Club, head of a fund raising money to buy baby grand pianos for the classrooms of hard of hearing children and deaf children who learn music by putting their hands on the top of the grand piano. I worked with the San Diego City Schools with their special needs children, again, United Way down there. And the most hazardous job I've ever had as a volunteer, I was a Little League umpire for the San Carlos Little League. And I have been a Big Brother in the National Big Brother program. Why do I want to join the City Council after all these years of being in government? I fell in love with Temecula when I came up here over 20 years ago. It's a continuing love affair. My wife and I both love it. We're going to live here. Quality of life in Temecula is second to none. We've lived in other cities and can make that comparison. I want to ensure that we continue to make public safety one of our specific, most important needs, but also that our infrastructure needs are dealt with, and especially our professional home infrastructure needs. If we don't make plans to take care of this building and other buildings that we've built, they will deteriorate, and future generations will pay the price. I think it's important that we continue to plan for the future by hiring exceptional staff. With a couple of exceptions along the way, we've had an outstanding staff in this city, and a lot of what's happened is a complete credit to them as well as the decision makers, the council. I want to follow the trends and the opportunities on a timely basis to help decisions made by this council, and I'm willing to work hard to make it happen. I have no other professional obligations at this time. So I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. To my colleagues, we've got the cue in here on the speaker, so rather than hit your button electronically to speak, just, Mike, I guess you want to have a question.
Yeah, just quickly, Mr. Bradley, first of all, it's good to see you as participating as part of the process. And
Thank you.
Throughout, forgive my little narrative, I got to set up the question before I do it, but Temecula's been a very successful city, not because of any one individual, but of many individuals. And I think it would be remiss if we didn't point out that you were probably one of those individuals that helped make Temecula a very successful city. You played a significant part in your, you danced around it a little bit, but you were city manager here in Temecula for how long?
5 years.
For 5 years. So I just have one question, and again, your knowledge of the city, and your knowledge of City Hall, and your knowledge of government, and your being city manager at, well, how many other cities in the region?
6.
6.
5 plus this one.
And so you've been a mentor to a lot of people, and 5 minutes doesn't do you enough justice to give your credentials, but we know you. Anyway, big question is, we have an up-and-coming staff. Let's say with our city manager, Aaron Adams, with our assistant city manager, Greg Butler. How, given all your city management experience, do you think having you on the dais could help or could hurt that effort, knowing that you're such an accomplished city manager, that how would that affect our current staff?
Good question, and thank you for the compliment. 16 of my assistants or department heads are now city managers throughout California. And I actually hired Aaron. So it's a question, would I intimidate the staff? I do not think so. Staff knows I support staff. They know how I work. It's not my style We worked collectively. We worked on a lot of things. When I came up here, all of the staff had never been a department head before. So when I came up with a cockamamie idea, instead of saying, well, we tried that in San Jose 4 years ago and it didn't work, they said, let's do it. And we did a lot of things because we didn't know we couldn't do them. And that's what got it started off. And of course, you alluded to being part of it. I was hired by the city council then to build a mall. We were in court with Kemper. We put a deal together. Takes 5 years normally to make that happen. We actually broke ground in 3, and the mall has become the cash cow for this city. So would I attempt to overpower them? I don't think so. I would work very hard to make sure I didn't do that. And also, they know and I know that the job of the staff is completely different than the job of the council. Their job is to bring you, the council, a rational recommendation on the issues you have them respond to. Rational doesn't mean fair. The least expensive, the quickest, the least bureaucratic doesn't mean fair. The council's job is equity. It's up to you folks to decide what's fair for the entire community. And these and previous councils have done an excellent job of doing that. And that's why I'd like to join this body.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions, Matt?
Well, thanks for your presentation, your time. You mentioned during your presentation public safety as one of your priorities. Can you expand on what your interests are and what your ideas are for the city?
Well, as you know from reading my resignation, I've been a police officer. I've hired several police chiefs. Last year was teaching in the Police Management Institute, where we were teaching new lieutenants how to run police departments. Quite frankly, our contract with the county is a challenge. And the rising costs there, because of the rising costs in our retirement system, have got to be examined. Peter will remember I told the council several years ago that we couldn't afford PERS, that we needed to start looking at different ways to deal with that. That's the case now. We've got to look at newer and more innovative ways for community policing. We need to make sure that a term you're familiar with, the broken window concept, doesn't occur in Temecula. Murrieta is one of the 10 safest cities in the United States, in California for sure. We're in the top 100, and probably nobody remembers Willie Sutton, but he was a famous bank robber, and they asked him why he robbed banks. He says, that's where the money is. Well, that's why we have more crime in Temecula, and we've got to stay on top of it. You can't let it get out of hand. You have to work with your police department, and I'm willing to do that. I think I bring some knowledge and background in that field to the dais, and would be happy to work on that. Please understand, I'm not anti-police. I'm pro-police, as you might suspect.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Anything else? Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for considering me.
Next applicant, please.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is James Cooley.
By the way, in case you haven't figured it out, the names are alphabetical, so in case you were wondering. Good evening, Mr. Cooley.
Good evening. Thank you. Just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a business owner. I'm a retired military officer. I got 30 years combined service with the government and DOD. And I'm proud to be a resident of this great city of Temecula. I'm also ROTC, Navy ROTC junior ROTC instructor at the college and at the high school level. And just want to start that off with that. I am here to share my ideas about this great city of Temecula. First of all, I want to thank the council, the city councils, past and present. I believe that you all have done a terrific job over the last 25 years, past and present, with this great city. And just like the gentleman just mentioned before, this is one of the safest cities in the United States to live. And some of the growth that I have seen since I've been here was the increase in the parks, the creation of several new businesses, new hospitals and medical facilities. Bottom line, Temecula is just a very, very good city to live in. I believe working together and the value that I bring to this council will also help us continue this growth as Temecula is continue processing. We don't want to be a city of decay. We want to continue to grow. So I want to help the city council in bringing higher education to the city of Temecula. Higher education, what I mean by that is institutions for the colleges and technical, if we can. I mean, because I believe that with continued growth, we need to be able to educate our people in the city that we live in so we can create more jobs, we can create better opportunities, and we can continue to grow. So I believe that job creation is one of the things, and I say this because I believe that our leadership is a leadership that cares. So, and our community matters. I want to also help the council, as it is right now, continue to create programs that will get our military veterans off the street. I think that's a major problem that we have here. I believe that no person that served their country and that gives up his or her life should ever have to come back to a city or opportunities where they are not there. So I think that's one of the big issues that I am pro for. Also, the homeless, I think that we need to create a lot more programs for that. And I know the council is doing a terrific job in doing those things because our leadership cares. Also, I think that Temecula is growing continuously, and this is a place where I think that we, as former veterans or veterans, can call home. This is a place that should be one of the models of the United States, and with the leadership that we're doing currently right now, we can continue to project that model. Most importantly, I believe the City Council has always been the backbone when it comes to our schools and supporting our school boards and the superintendent. I want to be a part of that continue that growth, because I believe that our youth today are going to be our leaders of tomorrow. So we have to make sure that we provide them with every opportunity to do that. And that means supporting the Boys and Girls Club, churches, businesses, and building YMCAs, whatever it takes to make this city continue to grow and be the best that we can possibly be. I believe that all of this matters with this city council. Even though I lacked commission experience, I do believe that my background and years of experience professionally, personally, and professionally, personally, and academically kind of make up for all of that. And I'm willing, and I'm standing here before you ready for this challenge. I'm ready to take on, I'm ready to do everything I can to be a member and work side by side with this council to make our city better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Any questions?
I have one.
Mrs. Edwards?
Where do you see the city of Temecula in 15 years?
I see the city of Temecula, if we continue to grow as we are now, I see the population potentially doubling. I see businesses coming in here because of the population and because of the environment that we have. I see that, again, like I mentioned, we're having several institutions built in here on Temecula colleges. I don't know that we have a whole lot right now. I see this city growing, growing, and growing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Cooley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is David James Corum.
Good evening, Mr. Corum.
I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. I think you are a very diligent council after working with you for, seems like forever, some of you, and some of you not so long, but we've gotten to know each other over the last 4 years as I'm on the commission, one of the commissioners here in town. So I know you had a chance to look through my resume and my background, so I'm not going to really delve deep into that. But I just want to say that as far as my education and background, I've spent a lot of time building myself up over the years, not so much for being in political office, because that was never really one of my goals. But I've found as I've gone through my life, I've kind of flipped myself over. I can remember graduating high school some 32 years ago now. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And I said, I never want to be a teacher. Never want to go back to school as far as being an educator. And I find myself 32 years ago today back in my third year of teaching at Chaparral High School. And the reason I did that is because looking back at all my past and my history, where I've come from, you saw that I was in law enforcement. You saw that I worked in the gaming industry with several of the tribes in the local area here. I've owned my own businesses in town and so forth. I found that I have something that I can give to these future people that are going to be us out there in the future that are going to be leading this community. So I'm not teaching math, I'm not teaching history, I'm not teaching English, which are all key and primary jobs or primary functions you have to have in school to get ahead in life. But I'm teaching career technical education. That's what we're teaching. That's why I went back into education, or that's why I went into education, is to prepare these kids coming out of the high school for today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now. So looking through my past, you can see that there's always been something that was community service oriented in there. Law enforcement for 17 years, went into the gaming industry, worked myself up through there, went into education, owned a business. So I've done all these things to make me a better person, not only for my family, but to give back to my community. You could say, well, you went into business for yourself. No, I kind of went into business to make extra money. That's true. That's why you start a business, right? You always want to make that little extra money. But I went into business also to help support the community and people that were my friends, that were my neighbors. And over the 8 years or so I had those hair salons in town here, you know, I put 20 or 30 people, I supported those families as well. So when you think about giving back to the community, that's what I've done. 4 years ago, when Michael McCracken, you all know him very well, him and I worked at the same facility on Camp Pendleton in the education center there. He said, Dave, you know, there's a position that's opening up in the city. And I said, yeah, so? And he says, well, it's the Public Traffic and Safety Commission. They're having a couple openings. Why don't you apply? He knew of my law enforcement background, knew me a little bit of my other work history. And I said, you know, I just not interested. Just leave me alone. And after about a month of him, it seems like he was poking me in the neck every 10 minutes. I said, okay, I'll put an application in. And two people got those two positions. I did not get one of the original positions that were open at that time. But I guess you could say fortunately or unfortunately for me, one of the other commissioners had to leave early, and I guess my application was sitting on as the next person on top there. And I was fortunate enough, and I think very fortunate enough, because that's why I'm here today. Otherwise, I probably would, well, I know I wouldn't be standing right in front of you right at this point, because I had no dreams of any political life other than, you know, doing what's right for the community. I think I see this as a continuation process of me giving back to my community. And if you so choose me for this position, I think, knowing the council, I could work well with all of you. I think I know all the administrative people, I could work well with them. But, you know, that's your decision, and you know where I stand down the road if that election should come a year and a half, 2 years down the road. for refilling the spot. That's all I have. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Quorum. Any questions? I have one, but before, let me, as you beg forgiveness for setting up the question, I'm chuckling here a little bit as I listen to your story about Mike McCracken, and because that's exactly the way I started. And a friend of mine was an employee here. You got to get involved. You got to get involved. No, I've got 2 young kids at home. I'm building a business. I don't have time for this. One day she caught me in a weak moment, and I wound up on the Community Services Commission, and everyone said, "Do watch, one day you'll be on the city council." I said, no, I'm not interested. I'm just doing my thing. And anyway, the rest is as they say. You've spent some time now on Public Safety and Traffic Commission. One of our major infrastructure components that we're struggling a little bit, mostly for funding, is the French Valley interchange and French Valley Parkway. What's your best advice for how to move forward on that and see it come to fruition?
The French Valley interchange. You're dealing with governmental agencies that are going to be nightmares and headaches. Some of the roads we've put in on our own or taken the lead and found funding through different methods to put those roads in. Caltrans is going to be the big issue, working with them. Looking for grants, that's how we get a lot of things paid for in town here. So continue to look for those grants. Working with our neighbor cities, Murrieta right up the road here, I think that would be a major benefit for them to have that in as well. So I think networking and working with each other through the governmental agencies, I don't think you're ever going to get any kind of support from the community for them saying, you know what, let's donate money for an interchange. That's not going to happen. But there's got to be ways we can create income. And I think through one of the processes I specified for where my plans for the city would go if I had the opportunity and stayed on the council, looking at building the infrastructure of the city, expanding the city slightly out, would help generate more revenue towards the city to fund some of those issues. And I think, you know, if I'm looking at making Temecula maybe a logistical center of Southwest Riverside County, that's kind of my idea or where the goal was going when I wrote that little portion at the end. I think the expansion is a key part, and bringing in the airport and French Valley into the city would be a key component of building the tax base and expanding us and bringing the quality of life up as was spoken earlier.
Okay. Nothing else? Thank you very much, Mr. Quorum.
Welcome.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Next applicant, please.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is Jeffrey Charles Chip Dodson.
Good evening, Mr. Dodson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. And distinguished council members. I'd like to start out by sharing with you that I didn't take this application process lightly at all. In other words, when I learned about the vacancy, it wasn't like, oh, I'll just throw my hat in there and see what comes out. I've been thinking about this for quite a few years now, and now the opportunity has presented itself. One of the first things I did was I discussed it and talked it over with my spousal unit, my lovely wife, Teresa, back there. And the next thing we did together, we prayed that, it was God's will and it was His timing. And because we know from past positions that I've held that the requirements of a position of this magnitude are going to take a lot of commitment and a lot of time. And we're up for that. We know that city council isn't just some fancy title or a position to occupy, but it's a true calling with an expectation of an all-in commitment. And I wanted to let the council know that I'm all in and I have 100% support from my wife. You've no doubt looked over all our applications and our resumes, and I'm not going to rehash everything that's in my statement for the jobs and positions that I've held. And I know you have a difficult decision because you have to determine who brings what to the table, and I guess simply, do you get a warm fuzzy that you can work alongside of that person? And I will say that when Ms. Randy sent us the list of the applicants, I reviewed that list, not strictly to find out what my time was in order of precedence to talk with you, but to review some of the folks on the list. And we are truly blessed as a city to have the talent that we have, because many of the folks I've worked right alongside of that are appearing before you tonight. So, what can I say to help you in your decision and to set myself apart, so to speak. Again, you have my resume and application. I simply say this, that I've planned and participated in numerous community service events because of the passion that I truly have for our city. I did 29 years in the United States Air Force, and we have lived literally everywhere, but we chose Temecula as our home, and it's been our home for the past 13 years. Also, I've been blessed to work for the junior RTC as an instructor at Temecula Valley High School, and I have enjoyed taking these high school students and participating and experiencing what our city has and our heritage, and not just the military-type patriotic events, but in the civic events and the historical events. And I've been blessed to speak at some of these events and sit right alongside of some of you. Now, I'm ready to transition to that next level, the next step up, and give the City Council the same commitment and the same sense of urgency that I did during my military career. I served with, you'll see, with Air Force One during Desert Storm, and continued service with our public school system right here with the Temecula Valley Schools. I know that I stated that my accomplishments may be pale in comparison to some of yours and my colleagues, but that doesn't mean that I don't feel that I would have the confidence to do this type of work with you. I say that because of respect that I have for the position that you hold and the position that I would seek. So I would be honored to serve alongside of you, serve in our great city, in maintaining our old traditions and exploring some of our new and exciting opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dotson. Questions? Mr. Ron?
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time this afternoon. Just, you mentioned the new opportunities toward the end there, and I know you discussed some of that in the responses. It's hard to get a sense for all of that in just a handful of pages. So, again, can you just sort of describe for us what you think the priorities are for Temecula in the next 15, 20, 25 years?
Well, I think one of the things really looking at, and obviously I did my due diligence to read where some of you stand. I believe we have a great opportunity right now with education, whether it's a special type of world-class education. We have a lot of buildings, so to speak, or infrastructure already in place that some of the colleges are coming into, and keeping some of our folks here in Temecula instead of having to go outside down to, not that there's anything wrong with these colleges, but going up to Menifee or heading down to San Diego way. It's a great opportunity for growth there. Also, it was kind of neat when I was looking at our water situation and everything, and like I said, reading some of the things where you stand, and I see a lot of expertise right there, right off the bat. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I would be here to support the council, and to, most important, to support the people to the city and the city to the people as we grow throughout the next 100 years, although I won't be around that long.
Thank you, Mr. Dotson.
Thank you.
That's it. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next applicant, please.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Angel Garcia.
Garcia, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. My name's Angel Garcia. 21 years ago, my family moved to the Valley, and soon Temecula became our home. I get a nostalgic feeling when I drive by what was my childhood playground. I grew up in a generation where your greatest gift was your imagination. Imagination is something you could not buy at a toy store. I remember sliding down dirt hills. That today is Wolf Creek. I'm not opposed to growth and prosperity of the community, but it must be done with prudent care. I'm a product of the Temecula Valley Unified School District, having attended K through 12. And while some teenagers were being careless and rebellious, I was attending evening classes at Palomar College. As a result, I was not only able to graduate from Great Oak High School, but completed my studies at the University of California, Riverside, a regionally and world-respected institution of higher learning. And I'm proud of the well-rounded education I acquired there. I sincerely believe citizens who are educated will contribute to greater public discourse. As a sole proprietor of business, my work has taken me to different parts of our great state of California. Nevertheless, each trip brought me back home to the city of Temecula. After traveling over 100,000 miles in the past 3 years, Temecula continues to be home for me. My plans for Temecula are to maintain fiscal responsibility, champion open government, and hold City Hall accountable. While our approach may differ, on occasion, I sincerely believe that we all have Temecula's best interest in mind. I will be the first to admit I may not have all the answers to the issues facing our city, but I am committed to work with you and anyone who is determined to care for that former dot on a map that has grown into our fine city. I bring to the table a diverse background in public affairs. My advocacy, along with my independence, perseverance, and strong work ethic, is what we need in our next council member. As the next top vote getter, a large number of Temeculans have already voted for me. It would be a distinct honor to serve as a council member for our city of Temecula, the place over 100,000 people call home.
Are you done?
I am.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Nagar?
Mr. Garcia, thank you for coming and putting yourself out there and applying. And also, as you said, you ran for, I think, election in the last election, which was 2014. So it was a little while, just a little while ago, not too long. Got some tough questions for you. If you could just give me some quick answers, though, okay? I'm looking at an article which you're quoted in from October 31st, 2014. Garcia believes the biggest challenge facing the city is what he calls the resistance from the current council to listen to the concerns of residents and act in their interest. This is where his neighborhood town hall meetings could greatly benefit citizens. Do you really believe this panel doesn't act in the interests of Temeculans?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You've answered it. Go ahead if you want to
I'm glad. I
elaborate.
wasn't sure if you wanted to follow up, but
No,
if you're satisfied
I'm okay.
with
Follow,
that.
follow up because I want this a fair dialogue.
Well, during my campaign trail, I came across constituents who didn't feel that the city council was doing their duty in fulfilling certain aspects, whether it was Parks and Rec or infrastructure. And it's very unfortunate that someone has to suffer bodily injury for any course of action to be taken. And that's the reason why I proposed town halls. And actually, Councilmember Ron proposed the same thing on his website. And I think it's a great method. It's worked in other cities to get citizens involved. And there's nothing wrong with getting citizens involved, and I'm sure we can all agree on that.
Another quick question. Garcia said that with longevity comes a sense of complacency, and we have seen this firsthand with our current council. Are we all complacent? Listen, you want to join this team, and I'm asking you a question. Do you think I'm complacent or any of my colleagues here are complacent?
I think a better question to ask would be, when was the last time you guys went to different neighborhoods throughout the city and truly reached out to residents and asked what their needs or concerns were?
Constantly.
All the time.
Constantly.
10 days ago, but that I beg the question. Again, these are hard questions, let's see, or at least challenging questions. I appreciate you answering them. I think I got one more. Let's see. No, that's enough. I think, I can keep going. I'm just a little concerned, I guess, so let me summarize. You're asking us to choose you to be up here on this panel, okay, and obviously you've criticized this panel. How do we do that? take me there. Hold my hand and take me to that place that says, Mr. Nagar, I've criticized your whole city council. I mean, I've been here 16 years now. I think you're in your 18th year now? 10 years?
10.
And Mr. Ron, you're just starting your fourth month. And so, listen, I pour a lot of my heart and soul into all this. Geez, I've made my whole life a fishbowl, including the health of my family. So when somebody calls me complacent, I really take it to heart. It actually hurts my feelings, but I got a thick skin. But how do I hold your hand and say, I want Angel Garcia up on this dais? Tell me how I do that.
Well, Mr. Nagar, we're not always going to agree on everything. And I mean, for a while, you yourself sought a spot on the Board of Supervisors since 2013 until recently withdrawing. Now, for whatever reason that may be, it's a whole different story. But I think the time has come that we welcome a new perspective into the council. And we shouldn't be so resistant to change.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Mrs. Edwards?
What would be the difference in your, I mean, what would you do differently? For example, could you say with the Jefferson Corridor, give me your impression of the Jefferson Corridor and what would you do differently?
I think when it comes down to the Jefferson Corridor, we have to work collaboratively with businesses and local agencies, whether it's WRCOG, the City of Murrieta, RCTC, to make sure that we have the advocacy in place and that residents are being heard and their opinion is gathered in regards to the Jefferson Corridor.
So the town hall meetings and the gatherings we had over the period of a year, do you think they were insufficient? We had all the business owners there, we had residents there, Murrieta. Do you think those were insufficient?
I think we could have done more.
Did you attend any?
Unfortunately, due to my scheduling conflict, I was unable to attend those meetings.
Not one in a year?
I mean, I have traveled over 100,000 miles in 3 years, so it's kind of a challenge trying to fit all this in between, but
So would your business allow you to be accountable and be accessible to the residents?
actually, yes. Being the sole proprietor of a business, I would have that flexibility to be accessible to the residents of the city of Temecula.
Yeah, I'm good.
Mr. Garcia, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next speaker.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Sonia J. Hooks-Broyles.
Ms. Broyles? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and citizens of Temecula. My name is Sonia Hooks-Broyles. I am a Temecula resident of 18 years and a local business owner of 17 years. My parents relocated to Temecula in 1989 and soon followed my siblings and extended family members. I am an optometrist. I received my Doctor of Optometry from New England College of Optometry in Boston, Massachusetts. I am married to Donnie Broyles. I have 2 children whom are 19 and 17 years of age. I am a proud business owner of Red Hawk Vision Center in Temecula. I help employ a fraction of the residents that do not have to commute to other cities on a daily basis. I also currently serve on the board of directors for the Rancho Pueblo Master Association, which is adjacent to the Temecula Valley Hospital. I am a new face, a new voice in Temecula's art, science of government. Like any science, it must be studied, mapped, and practiced. I want to be among my elected city council members to ensure the quality of life master plan of Temecula 2030 is fulfilled to its fruition. I want to promote growth with a conservative guidance in all areas: demographics, economy, our healthcare system, and sustainability. Currently, my focus is the economy by way of our healthcare system. The national standard for hospital beds to residents is 3 beds per 1,000 residents. The city has made great progress moving towards that standard. I would just like to be an advocate for the citizens in continuing the progress of improving our hospital bed ratios. I want to be a part of the continued development of a comprehensive care system, comprehensive health care system that fosters innovative research along with the state-of-the-art technology and teaching hospitals for the citizens of Temecula. With this premise, we can continue to attract partners with innovative biotechnology companies to protect our quality of life. I look forward to the opportunity to serve Temecula residents as we continue to study, map, and execute progression. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Broyles. Questions? Dr. Ron, this is, now speak a language that the rest of us understand, okay?
No problem. So I like what you're saying, and I'm just wondering if you could expand on the idea a little bit, and give us a roadmap of how you'd expect to help see those programs and foster them.
Well, right now, a lot of things are in place here in Temecula. I would be the advocate to promote, foster relationships, to mediate different biotechnology companies that are here, companies that can look at Temecula, the sustainability that we do have, and bring those companies. BioTrue is one that is BioTime, located in Alameda, California. I would love to reach out to companies like that. We've partnered up with Cal State San Marcos. We partner up with San Jacinto. We have the ability to bring companies to execute education at a great, rapid advance level here in the city.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Dr. Broyles, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is KCW Jeske. Mr. Casey Jeske.
Next applicant, please.
The next applicant is John Kelleher.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening, Mr. Kelleher.
Seems that showing up is an important attribute here. You're already all amply familiar with my resume. I'm going to skip that, and tonight what I'd like to do is share some thoughts on 2 interrelated topics. And as I mentioned to Randy, I'm a presentation guy. I like to use graphics, so just to make it clear, these are the topics that I'd like to talk about: the impact of tourism on Temecula and the impact of additional tourism expertise on the City Council. You're all familiar with the Dean Runyon Economic Impact Studies. We bring them out every year. I wanted to just create a brief synopsis. They have tons of data. This is just a real quick synopsis of what has happened from the years 2000 to 2013. We're still waiting for our 2014 numbers. But as you can see, and as you've probably already seen in these reports, we've had some real stunning success. We've taken our local tax receipts up approximately triple since 2000. Our employment, we've more than quadrupled, and we've almost quintupled our travel spending. That's direct travel spending. Tourism has gone essentially from a footnote in Temecula to a headline, and it's arguably the industry that today and in the foreseeable future will have the biggest impact on what we're doing and on what we're able to accomplish. $650 million in economic impact is a good thing for Temecula. I think most people get that. But the impact that Temecula tourism has is actually much broader due to the indirect impacts. To offer just a glimpse, consider quality of life benefits. What are the building blocks for an industry to succeed? They're different in each industry. I spent some time in manufacturing. What we needed as our building blocks were a low-cost labor pool. We needed a highly educated technical pool to fill our technical positions. We needed access to resources and infrastructure. Those things were important to that industry. What's important for tourism industry? Here's some of the key factors. And these are just a few, but you get the idea. Rich cultural arts benefits tourism. Diverse and high-caliber dining is critical to tourism. Low crime. If you have an area that has a reputation for crime, you kill tourism. Visually pleasing environment with open spaces and clean and orderly public areas. If you're going to push tourism and succeed in tourism, you're going to create lifestyle benefits for the visitor. And those lifestyle benefits for the visitor are going to create lifestyle benefits for the locals. So that is another advantage of tourism. Some of the other factors that are worth just a quick mention are the fact that tourism dollars come from outside. As locals, we get to have the benefits of those tax dollars without spending them ourselves. It reduces our total tax burden in order to achieve the same thing. Tourism infrastructure demands come at off-peak times. So instead of taking a business that has everybody getting off at the same time, which creates our peak traffic demands, and adding more of those businesses requiring us to build extra infrastructure, tourism actually comes at off-peak times, making the public cost to support it lower than other industry segments. And there are many more factors, but you've wisely limited my time, so I'm going to move on. It's clear that Temecula tourism has an enormous impact on all Temecula citizens. In fact, our valley has a notable positive impact on all citizens of Riverside County. So on to my second topic. What would it mean to bring tourism expertise, more tourism expertise, to Temecula City Council? I'd like you to consider the value of just a small incremental improvement. If you move the bar by just 2% on tourism, it means additional tax receipts of $150,000 annually and an improvement in economic impact of $13 million annually. Now, if you add the effect of all the other indirect impacts, and dozens that I didn't even cover, it becomes apparent that moving the needle of tourism by just a tiny fraction has a profound impact on the lives of all Temeculans. Is that 2%, 1%, 3%? Is that achievable? How difficult is it to move the needle by 2%? If 100 couples come to Temecula for an overnight stay and you can nudge just 2 of them through the amenities that you offer and the services that they receive, to stay an additional night or to come back an additional time, you've achieved that 2%. It is not difficult to do or to imagine that you can do it, considering that we've grown tourism by almost 500% over the last 13 years. And here's where I come in. I think if you were to poll the audience, go out into the community and ask maybe 100 people who you know an awful lot about tourism, ask them for a short list of the people.
Kelleher, please summarize. Your time is up.
All right. In closing, what I'd like to say is, if you agree that a deeper understanding of this city's most impactful industry would benefit this council's decision, then I'd love to be available to work with you to help make Temecula an even better place. What questions can I answer?
Thank you, sir. Questions? Marianne?
Mr. Kelleher, do you see any drawbacks to increased tourism?
I absolutely do. You have to increase it in the right way. I believe that this city right now is, actually there was a couple comments on growth. I don't think we can stand a whole lot more growth. We're near build out in the city as a whole, and frankly, tourism has started to reach a tipping point. We can't afford to bring any more people, in particular on the weekends. What we have to do is start adjusting and thinking cleverly about how we bring additional tourism dollars without bringing additional tourism people. As you know, I have a business that is tourism related. I've managed over the last 2 or 3 years within that business, by making different decisions, to reduce the total number of people that we serve on peak times by a significant amount. At the same time, we've increased our revenues. And that's what we're working for in tourism. We cannot stand, honestly, if somebody says they want to bring more tourists to town, they're telling you the wrong thing. That's the wrong thing to do right now.
Matt?
Well, thanks. Just sort of following up on Councilmember Edwards' comments here is, so tourism brings a lot of opportunities, I think, clearly, but then there's some challenges associated with that too, whether it's, potential impacts to infrastructure, transportation, or even public safety. And so can you just sort of expand on your ideas on how we can meet some of those challenges?
Yeah, one of the things that tourism does is it brings additional people. When you get additional people, you have additional stresses on certain resources, primarily infrastructure, some on safety. Right now, one of the key issues that we're looking at in tourism is we're getting large crowds of people in Old Town late at night that are there for the wrong reasons and doing the wrong things. We need additional security for that. We also need the business owners to do slightly different things. And really, this council can do some things to affect that as well. I'll give you one little example. In a community where you are allowed to have outside noise late into the night, compared to a community where you're not allowed to do that, you will find a drastically different impact on the effects that we're all looking to fight against, which is you end up with violence, with crime, you end up with public drunkenness, and those are things that you can affect with the right decisions, and at the same time, increase the tourism dollars. It's about finding the right tourists. It's not necessarily about just getting more.
Thank you.
Mike?
Mr. Kelleher, you were a plaintiff in a lawsuit against Calvary Chapel Bible Fellowship in the Wine Country, a church of about 3,000 people who primarily their members live here in Temecula. The case was later dismissed by the judge as having no merit and cost the church a significant amount of money. How would you explain it to the many people who live in Temecula whose constituents would become your constituents if you were appointed, that you brought a lawsuit against their church and now you want to represent them as their council member? And how does that relate to tourism and houses of worship?
Could I ask a point of order prior to answering the question? Could I ask Mr. Nagar to reveal any financial relationship he might have with the Calvary Chapel that he just mentioned?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely. I represent them on their current expansion that they have going before the county. But that has nothing to do with the question I asked you, and the lawsuit that you filed I had no part in. And you did file a lawsuit against them, and now you want to represent people that live in Temecula that go to that church. So it's a simple question.
I would say that, again, another point of order, I'm familiar with the California Code. It does suggest that if it's foreseeable that any matter before the council does have a significant financial impact on any of the members of that council, that person would need to identify completely so that the public completely understands that what their financial interest is, in order that there would not be a conflict of interest.
And Mr. Kelleher, before we go further, Mr. Thorson, would you like to opine on that issue? As to whether or not Mr. Nagar would have a conflict in raising that question?
Mr. Nagar would not have a question. He's asking a general question, and he has no financial interest in the lawsuit that he's asking about.
Thank you. Okay. Please continue.
I would like to point out, it's a matter of public record, that Mr. Nagar, for the last 7 years, has reported on public documents that are within the city that his only continuing source of earned income during those 7 years has been from Calvary Bible Chapel, and that for the last 3 years, his only source of earned income is from Calvary Bible Chapel. It is very foreseeable that to make a decision that would anger your primary employer would not be a very good career move, and it seems to me that it is foreseeable and reasonable that there may be a conflict of interest related to that.
Mr. Kelleher, I'm going to answer that, not that Mr. Nagar is not capable of doing so, but we all fill out and file a Form 700 every year, which lists all of our income within the jurisdiction of the city of
As do I,
Temecula,
yes.
except, the exception is within 2 miles of the border. I'm not privy to all of Mr. Nagar's income, but I guarantee you that the church income is a small part of his overall income. He doesn't need to report it if it's outside the jurisdiction of this city, as none of us do, and so you wouldn't know that. Why don't we get back to the question at hand? The question's been asked, and I'd appreciate if you'd answer it.
And if he doesn't want to answer it, I'll withdraw the question. Listen, it's just a fair question. The lawsuit's a public document, and you want to serve the citizens of Temecula, who many of them go to that church. It's just a very simple question. It wasn't meant to put you on the spot. And you and I had this conversation a few days ago, so you knew the question was coming. So if you don't want to answer, it's okay. I'll withdraw the question.
I'll answer it. I would like to state for the public record that I would like to request an inquiry into whether or not this does represent a conflict of interest given the matter that's before the council. However, I will answer the question, and it's quite simple. I'm involved with a couple of businesses. Over the years, I've been involved with many, many different organizations, and I can tell you that a number of those organizations have been involved in lawsuits. And if it was a requirement for this position to not be involved in a lawsuit in the past, unfortunately, none of us would have a chance to even consider the position. I have never personally been either on the front side or the back side of any lawsuit, and I hope that I'm able to continue that, although many of the organizations that I have been.
Any further questions, Mr. Kelleher? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is Eric Sean Levine.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eric Levine, and I am pleased to be among these fine candidates here this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you my story and why I believe that the City Council role is the right role for me in the City of Temecula. Before I start, I'm married to Erin, E-R-I-N. I have 2 children, a daughter, 12, and a son, 10. First thing I want you to know is I am consistent, whatever my role. I'm a leader in business with a solid business acumen. I have a strong volunteer record. I'm a positive force for change, and I am a builder of consensus. Originally, I'm from San Diego. In the early 90s, I remember driving up here for work, looking off at the signs in Temecula, seeing the signs that said, homes from the 120s, and I thought, what is this place? And who would live here? Well, it turns out, me. I live here. In 2005, I relocated here for a job offer in LA, and the idea was that I was only going to be here until I could get back to San Diego. Well, 4 years ago, we actually had the opportunity to move to San Diego, and the funny thing happened, we chose Temecula. To me, Temecula exemplifies continuous improvement. It's a thriving city of 106,000 people. It's centrally located, it's diverse, it's safe, we have great schools, Old Town, the wine country. This is a great place for families, and I wanted to help, and so I got involved through my children. My goals were to set a good example and hopefully to make things better. So I got involved when my son started flag football. I became a coach and was later invited to join their board of directors. We joined PAC 614, which is one of the largest Cub Scout packs in the Temecula Valley. And for the last 2 years, I've been a Cub Master, and I have been overseeing all the operations for 70 boys and their parents. It's a big deal. I'm a former parent at Hillcrest Academy, but last year I was invited back to join the Board of Trustees there, where I now serve as secretary. This city council opportunity got me excited to serve Temecula in a meaningful way. I'm an everyday citizen with a strong record of continuous improvement. In my day job, I work for a leading healthcare organization, and I'm responsible for IT operations at hospitals and clinics in Southern California. I have over 100 direct and indirect reports. My resume lists several key skills: leadership, strategy, change management, and oversight of million-dollar budgets. I have an MBA, but my undergraduate degree is in history, and I like history because it helps me understand why things are the way they are. And whether I'm at work, at home, or volunteering, I leverage my education, my experience, and my skills every day to make a difference. In my mind, Temecula has at least 3 important needs. 1, to improve freeway access and the traffic patterns. 2, to attract business and industry. And 3, probably most importantly, to grow responsibly and meaningfully. And to be honest, I think I know what Temecula needs, but in reality, I think you guys are exposed to that. And here's how I would help. I would lend an ear, I would observe, I would learn, I would help build consensus. And in closing tonight, when I think back to the 90s, I couldn't imagine standing here today offering you my services. But today I also couldn't imagine a better place to be or raise a family. I am here to help. I'm ready to serve, and I see the City Council for the best opportunity for me to make that impact. I understand the time commitments, and I will work tirelessly. I do have a plan if I'm not selected, and that's to apply for an open commission seat or perhaps seek your guidance for other opportunities that you might think are equally of interest. And with that, I thank you very much for your time, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Levine.
I have one.
Marianne?
Mr. Levine, you said you would like to see us increase our freeway or improve our freeway access, and without saying the word circulation, but also improve the circulation on Temecula Street. Could you tell us what your ideas are?
Yes, well, I
have the right to steal them, so.
Absolutely, I'm here to help. So, currently we live in the Harveston community, so we're right at the other end of where that French Valley Parkway would be, and for a couple of years now I've been waiting kind of with bated breath for that to be completed. And one of the reasons I heard about this vacancy was because I subscribed to those updates from the city, like what's going on. And I think, we need to have some dialogues about completing that overpass there. We need to reach out, whether it's to the state agencies, the local agencies. You know, there's a lot of good ideas to make things like that happen. I don't want to see Temecula. Temecula is this jewel, and I know that was stolen, by Murrieta, right? The jewel. But this place is such a hidden resource, and I think we don't want to turn into like Scottsdale, where they had to figure it out, years and years later. I think we need to figure out it now and get a hold of these, have these dialogues with the state agencies, with local agencies, with the communities, and figure out how we can improve that circulation and add those freeway overpasses or other improvements.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I've just one quick one.
Yes, sir.
You talked a little bit about your job as an IT director. Do you have an office that you work out of? If so, where is it, or do you just travel everywhere?
Both. I have my official office is in Corona, and my responsibilities for Southern California take me to San Diego, Riverside, Fontana, Baldwin Park in LA. I go basically all over. There's a lot of time that I do work from my home because I am on quite a bit of conference calls each and every day.
And you talked about the commitment that you're willing to make in terms of time. We all balance work and city council, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. I think it becomes a little more difficult when your office is 30 miles away or so. How do you see balancing those responsibilities?
Well, fortunately, I've been with my organization for over 20 years now, and I do have some amount of flexibility in that. I do spend the bulk of my time operating from my home, and with my interests currently, that's been a big part of why I've been able to become so involved in my community interests. Currently, right now, my son is about to bridge over from a Weeblo 1 to a Weeblo 2, and at the end of the year, he'll be done. And so my commitment within the PAC actually will end month. So I will have some extra time to devote to my new opportunities, whatever.
You
they
know
may
you're
be.
committed when you measure time in Boy Scout terms.
I was
It's
gonna
only an
say,
hour a week, right?
just because your Weeble time is over doesn't mean your parenting time is over.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Mr. Levine, thank you very much. Appreciate your presence.
Thank you for
tonight.
this opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is Samuel Jr. Lopez.
Good evening, Mr. Lopez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Just to begin, telling you a little bit about myself. I have a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of California at Berkeley. I also have an MBA from the University of Southern California. I've been living in Temecula for almost 6 years. My two sons attend Chaparral High School and Day Middle School. When we moved here 6 years ago, like probably everyone here, we basically fell in love with Temecula. Great old town, great neighborhoods, fantastic schools, excellent quality of life. So much so that my wife and I find ourselves being unofficial ambassadors of the city, to the point where we've had some family relocate to this area, which we couldn't be happier about. And I would continue to do that to anyone who listens, talking about all the benefits of living in this great city. I've spent my entire career in the private sector, as you've seen from my resume. I built my career in marketing, primarily in the automotive industry, over the last 20 years, and I'm currently Vice President of Marketing at Car Finance Capital, which is an automotive lender in Irvine, California. Though I have spent my entire career in the private sector, I have had the opportunity to serve on several commissions in my past, including the Los Angeles Board of Information Technology, where I was appointed by Mayor Richard Reardon, and also where I used to live before Temecula in Round Rock, Texas. I was a member of the Citizens School Bond Commission that helped pass a very large bond measure to help fuel and expand the education infrastructure, a very rapidly growing city in Central Texas. I also have volunteered often in sports, band, and academic activities at both of my son's schools. And I've made it a point to be a dad seen regularly on campus. I feel that's very important nowadays, especially to have fathers involved in school with their children, at the high school level especially. So I've been very proud of all of that work I've done. I have found the work to be very rewarding. And really, I'm at a point now where I would like to get involved again with the community at a different level, and this time, hopefully, in city government. Why I'm here is, like most of my neighbors in Temecula, I often think of ways I can help make a difference in the community on any number of issues. But the demands of daily life, and in my case, a fairly long commute, sometimes push my desire to be more involved in the community a little lower on my priority list. Well, I want to change that. I am very realistic about what I could accomplish to make up. I feel very realistic about what I could accomplish while serving out the remainder of the term on the City Council. Given the limited time available to me, my focus will be on building relationships with all of you, folks on the City Council, the mayor, the staff, working to get quickly up to speed with the immediate business before the City Council, and becoming involved where needed, right? Different subcommittees, ad hoc committees, et cetera. My goals, once I do accomplish that, will be to talk about some of the things I feel are priority. For example, how do we deal with the ongoing water crisis in this state? How, as a city at the local level, are we going to take a leadership role in doing that? How do we prevent traffic from negatively impacting the quality of life in this city? Being a long-distance commuter, I experience it every day. So it's one of those things that I would like to bring to the table. And lastly, how do you market this city, right? A lot of the things you want to accomplish, or the city would like to accomplish, involves building your tax base. And it's not just growing by having more residents show up, but how do you encourage companies to come here, expand, grow, and start, so you don't have so many people maybe leaving every morning at 5 a.m. to work. Again, having experienced that for the last several years, it's something that I would like to speak to. I don't have a solution, let's say, at this point, but I have ideas, and I'd like to work with all of you on this. I know you have a difficult decision ahead of you. I am confident I can make meaningful contributions in all those areas, and I very much appreciate your consideration. If you have any questions, I'm very much welcome to hear them.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Any questions?
I'd like to know how you take advantage of being Temecula's ambassador. That's a great thing.
Well, it's funny, when I never envisioned myself living here. I lived a long time in Los Angeles, a couple years in Texas. And really, at every chance I get, it becomes a conversation starter when you work in Orange County. You live in Temecula? Well, yes, I do. Why do you do that? Well, then you kind of talk about it, and you realize that every time you talk about why you're here more and more, not only are you convinced of it, you believe it, and I do completely. Family would come to visit, like, wow, this is beautiful. There's no smog, right? Great places to shop. You have beautiful mountains. And like I said, it's become a thing with our friends. Like, oh yeah, they're talking about Temecula again. So.
Yeah, well, you know what Mr. Comachero says, when you love Temecula, it loves you back.
Yes, and we've had, like I said, it's been great living here. My son's in senior in high school. He's also going to go to Berkeley in the fall, so we're very excited about that. And our kids are making their way through the system, and it's been fantastic.
Congratulations.
Mr. Lopez, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, the next speaker is Lori S. Malmstrom.
Good evening, Ms. Maelstrom.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Sorry about that.
What'd she
It's
say?
a pleasure to be here this evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen of Temecula, and hopefully a lot of residents. My name's Laurie Malmstrom, and as a college professor, I always tell my students, you shop at a mall, you strum a guitar. Put the two of them together, you've got Malmstrom, just like Malmstrom Air Force Base in Great Falls, Montana. A little bit about myself. I was born, raised, and educated in Utah. I'm not a polygamist, not a Mormon. But I have been in the communications field most of my career. I started as a journalist in Salt Lake City. I've worked for an ABC TV affiliate, and I continued with Pillsbury when I moved my family in 1978 to the Bay Area. A single parent with 2 daughters, I became a road warrior. Now, since that time, I've also worked for major Fortune 500 companies, including Ralston Purina, Marriott, PepsiCo, and the world's largest advertising agency, McCann Erickson. I've been a professor at Golden Gate University, teaching under Dean Earl Austin. And I've lived a lot of different places in the course of my career. Some of those cities include Phoenix, Denver, Houston, Dallas, the Bay Area several times, and San Diego. But I have to tell you that Southern California is my home by choice. There's something here that tugs at the heartstrings that keeps bringing me back home. Now, I currently work as a marketing consultant, owning my own business called Momentum Marketing and Consulting. I've been very fortunate this year, turned 65, I'm semi-retired, and I choose my own clients at this point in time. I'm definitely a workaholic. I've always had several jobs going, even with my consulting business and with my corporate positions as executive vice president of marketing. And in doing so, I think that you have to give back, and that was part of the education that my parents always gave us. Be part of the solution, not the problem. Give back to the community. And I have done that with my own company. I have done pro bono work for the Children's Hospital. I'm currently working with Hope's Community Closet, which is a 501(c)(3). We do a lot of free clothing for military families and families in need. Again, my services are provided to them free. I'm now on Social Security. That's my income. I have to tell you, before I decided to retire, I moved to Temecula in 2008 at the urging of my daughter. She's a school teacher. She was loving the area and suggested I come up here and look to relocate when I was looking to buy a home in San Diego. So I moved here in 2008, and I've never looked back and had no regrets. Although I have to tell you, the commute, which I did every day to SDG&E,
Oh, yeah.
and later to Edison, which is in Rosemead, 2.5 hours each way, caused me some concern because I believe quality time should be quality, and you can't call a lot of people at 5 a.m. in the morning and let them know that you're returning their calls. So now I have the luxury of working at home, working out of my office, selecting my own clients. I have the time to give back to my community, the community that I love. I want to be a part of this council, I choose Temecula as my home, and I hope you will choose me as your candidate to work with you, to see things happen. I have the time. You know, there's an old saying that if you take care of the minutes, the hours and the years will take care of themselves. I do believe that. And knowing that you have 13 standing committees and 27 ad hoc committees, I have the time necessary to dedicate to those. I've been a leader in all my corporate capacities. I continue to be a leader today. My family is here now, so I have that support surrounding me, and I look forward to your support as your new council member. Are there questions?
Questions? Matt?
Thank you again for spending this afternoon with us. You clearly have a very interesting, I think, outstanding background in marketing and communications. And you sort of touched on the ideas of bringing that to the city and the city council role. Can you expand on that for us?
I think that as we look to expand and grow, we need to build the infrastructure to support what that growth is going to be and what it's going to look like. Whether we look at annexation in the county or how we expand on that, we really have to get creative with some of our solutions. And in most cases, there's more than one solution when you look at a problem. I think that in the corporate world and business acumen being part of that, you're faced with a problem and you have to come at it with many, many solutions. I try and keep an open mind. I'm a good listener. I'm definitely a researcher. I've been part of the research here for the Temecula when you were doing your phone interviews to find out what the hot topics were out there in the community. And I believe that we have to do that homework and get a vision for where we're going so we can build that roadmap and get ahead of the trend and know how we're going to manage that growth. Again, creative solutions, creative problem solving.
Thank you. I have a question for you. You sent us an email the other day, just letting us know a little bit about who you were. And in that email, you alluded to the fact that you helped get a governor elected. Would you please expound on what that experience was?
Thank you for the question. I'd love to. As I mentioned, I was born, raised, and educated in Utah. At a very young date, was encouraged to join the Young Democrat Party. Today, I am not affiliated with any party, I must tell you that. But in doing so, I got very active in the whole campaign, right down to copywriting, interviews with the press, with the TV, with the radio stations. And in doing so, it was really finding out what the pulse of the people. What did they want? Was it not necessarily party origination, but what were the ideas that this new governor was going to have, and where was he going to take the city? And knowing that Utah is very much a red Republican state, it was really positioning him to talk to the people, to address the issues, and pose solutions to those problems that they had identified. And that's how we got Governor Cal Rampton elected governor in Utah.
A Democrat in Utah.
A Democrat.
Interesting. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Appreciate
your time.
Next.
Mr. Mayor, the next applicant is Michael R. McCracken.
Good evening, Mr. McCracken.
Good evening. That's a nice, long, and effective walk. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for your time tonight coming out here for the special meeting. And before we get started, go a couple backgrounds about myself. I'm used to that side of the podium, not this side of the podium. All right. A little background for myself. I have 24 years of active naval service. 6 years in the Fleet Reserve, which makes me 30 years total. I moved to Temecula in 1995. And the way I moved to Temecula, I had a friend that I was stationed with in San Diego who lived here, invited me to a birthday party for his son. And I came up and I felt like I belonged. So it kind of hooked me right there. In 2005, I made a connection with the city on USS Ronald Reagan. I decided it would be a good idea to have some of my new chief selectees. For those who are not aware, the Navy is the only branch of service that takes E6 personnel into E7, and we put them through a transition program. And that program is done to help mold them, to shape them, to show them that although they've achieved a certain level of success, they got there by people supporting them. So as a Chiefs mess, we are one unit. Anywhere in the world you go to, the Chiefs support each other. So one thing we did was brought about 45 total chief selectees and genuine chiefs to the city of Temecula. And the reason I did that, I love this city. And I wanted to be able to give back and to show these new chiefs what a great city was like. Had no idea it would turn into a love affair in another way. My education background, I have a bachelor's in business management, human resources. I have a master's in education, adult education instructional. I also have a master's in leadership and organizational studies. So I've been in school a few weeks, so. All right. So again, in 2005, we decided to come to the city of Temecula and do what we call an outreach economy project. And on that project, we got together and worked on the skate park and built some palm trees. It was about 110 degrees out there, and these chief selectees, as the units that they would always say, this is a great city. I mean, it feels good, feels comfortable, feels like we belong here. This is where we give back to the community. We do Commonwealth projects no matter what country we go to overseas. And so when I came to Temecula, I was already living here, and I wanted to be able to get back to connect to it. Not knowing how to do it and what to do, no experience in the political field, I thought this would be a good way to go about doing that. So after the Commonwealth project, the city decided to grant us a proclamation, December 15, 2005, USS Ronald Reagan Day. And that's one of the best things you did for the ship. 5,000 men and women felt like, just coming from East Coast to San Diego, they felt like they were home. So that was one thing that really impressed us. So one thing that we did, you invited us to a parade, 4th of July parade. I've been to parades before, in uniform and out of uniform, and not sure what it was, what connected. The newspaper article said, as we came around the bend on bales of hay, the crowd cheered. It felt like I've been living here forever. I've never felt like that before about a city, and I've lived in different places overseas and stateside. But the city had a way to just connecting to me. So I wanted to find a way to give back to the city any way I could. So my appointment on the commission was in 2007, but my ambassadorship, if you will, started in 2005. So we came here as guests and we left as family. So one thing I want to show you, this is a picture of a chief petty officer on liberty in Hong Kong. And this is also a chief petty officer taking the city of Temecula on a tour of the Far East. You can't see it in the picture, but the hat that I'm wearing now is the hat that was presented to me and my fellow sailors at that proclamation. So everywhere I went, I made sure I wore that hat. And it was an icebreaker, if you will. You see little kids in the picture coming up and they see the hat and they want to talk to the Americans and they see that. So that was my way of showing Temecula to the Far East the best way I could. Not being an appointed official, not being connected with the city. You didn't think I was, but I thought I was. So other pictures, Singapore. So one thing that I like about being with this city, I've learned a lot about politics, if you will, a lot about the way things go. And Aaron Adams is a great example of that coming up. And when I first got on the commission, there was a gentleman that I have a lot of respect
Sorry, Mr.
for.
McCracken, you will have to summarize.
Yes, sir. Trying to create a niche in the city. And me being on the city commission is one thing, but one thing I tried to do, it's already a successful city. There's nothing I can do to create anything. So my idea is to fit in, not to blend in. I want to be a part of the commission, of the council member, not to come in and change things around, but to support what we're doing as a city. I've learned in the last 8 years of the city how the city works. I have good mentorship. So my resource for the city is to blend in, fit in, not to blend in. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Matt?
Just a quick one. Thanks for your time. Real quick, you know, we've got a handful of folks that have come out of our commissions to put forward an application here. And not necessarily that you're going to speak for all of them, but how do you think your experience on the commission has helped your concept of what it means to be a council member?
Great question. I've been fortunate and blessed to have some of the best training you could. Being on the commission as long as I have, I'm an active member in the community. I'm out with the citizens, talking to them, interchanging. I've learned a lot about the city, how things work, and I know that there's a lot of things that our residents see they don't think are happening, but at the same time that they're going on. I think my experience the past 8-9 years on the commission has made me a better council member applicant. Instead of coming straight from my other business to this one, not knowing how the ropes are, if you will, I think this is a good transition from my commission position to a council member position. So I think I would serve the city ill will to come with a little experience of how things work and be a hindrance instead of an asset. So I think my transition served me well.
Thank you.
What's your vision for Temecula in the next 10 years?
Thank you for the question. My vision for Temecula, I see teen village. I see our youth having things to do where they can go back and relax. I see the city engaging, continue to reach out. I know we do it already, but continue to reach out to both business organizations, franchises, and to bring different venues to Temecula. So as far as entrepreneurship, I see different conventions coming through the city. I see us as continuing what we're doing, but at the same time, finding ways to use our current resources to serve our citizens additionally. Like I said, we're already a successful city, but there's always room for growth by rethinking, retweaking things.
From good to great.
And did it well, ma'am.
Mr. McCracken, quick philosophical question. What do you think is the most important attribute that a city council member can have?
To be open-minded, to be approachable, and from what I've seen for the past 20 years living in Temecula, to put the citizens first. So I've never seen a council member, current or past, put their interests first. It's always what the citizens want. And I think as council members and also city leaders, our citizens, they'll do that. So they elected us, appointed us to serve them and not our agenda. And I've yet to see a personal agenda come across at my 8 years, 10 years unofficial.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you for your time.
The
Next applicant.
next applicant is Ronald O. Millam.
Good evening, Mr. Miller.
Good evening. It's Milam, and that proves the fact that I've never been here before. And I guess one of the big things, my wife is watching tonight, so I want to try to keep my foot out of my mouth as best I can. I'll hear about it.
We all do the same thing,
Is that
so
what it
it's
is?
pretty,
Yeah,
you know.
It's, you know, it's not my first rodeo, but you still got to get on and ride. And I love Temecula. I moved here probably 15 years ago, been coming here maybe for 18 years. We first started coming to Temecula to get away from the hustle and bustle of Orange County and come down and relax and go to Old Town and walk through the shops and get something to eat, which back in those days, as most of you know, that was kind of difficult to do. You had to get in line early or you weren't going to eat. Fortunately, and due to the efforts of all of you here, we've got good restaurants now, and you don't have to wait in line. You can pick and choose. That's an important attribute, and I think you're all to be commended for that. I looked at the bios for all of you here and my fellow applicants, and there's a plethora, if you will, of serving on committees, ad hoc, and being board of directors. And I have none of that. I'm a businessman. I've been halfway around the world in 2 goat ropings, and I appreciate what happens in a city to get the growth that you need, yet containing that in a way that the citizens can feel comfortable that the crime rate stays down and that there's plenty to do for the youth. And I think going forward, we've got to make sure that we have good, clean businesses in town for people to work, so we have the larger percentage of people being able to work in town without having to commute. The commutes are terrible. The freeways aren't getting better. They work on them all the time, and if you have to work, whether it's San Diego, Orange County, LA, Riverside, the traffic is getting horrendous. On a Thursday and Friday, as you all know, the freeways are impacted, and we've got the freeway traffic moving on to our surface streets. All they're trying to do is get home. So it's nice when you've got businesses here in town that they don't have to travel. And I think what I see as a potential for myself is to really champion making sure we have growth in business in town so people don't have to do that. I mean, Temecula is a great place. I mean, it is home. It's home for me. We love it here. I can't think of any place else that I would want to live. So I'm sure you've looked at my resume. I have no political aspirations. I'm a businessman. I sell aircraft around the world. My office is everywhere. Wherever I need to be, that's where I go. But I have the time to serve my city, and I want to do that. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Milam, correct?
That's correct.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
That's not a good sign.
You never know.
Thank you.
Nagar?
No, just a quick question or a quick comment, because Mr. Milam said that's not a good sign. Au contraire, sir. I mean, your resume and all of the resumes are quite comprehensive. So the lack of questions don't, or the most questions, to me, don't indicate anything.
Next applicant, please.
Next applicant is David Allen Pulsfer.
Good evening, Dr. Pulsfer.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
Good, thank you.
By way of introduction, all of you know my name, but for the record, I go by Alan. My first name is David. I'm here after a family decision. I couldn't make this on my own. I had to get approval from my wife and my family, and this was a big decision for me to put my application in and to meet before you. You have my application. I wanted to speak a little bit about myself tonight, about the qualities and values that I have personally that I can bring to the City Council. The first one that I'd like to speak about is my integrity. That is something that we have within our family keyed in as a number one value that we do within our family, is that we are honest in all of our dealings, no matter what they are, with no matter what situation arises in our business, in any position that we hold. And that breaks down into several different things. First of all, being honest in your own faith, whatever faith that may be. Secondly, it's being honest with yourself in the decisions that you make, and doing those decisions without guile and without prejudice, and making decisions that you can live with. And that is the other thing that we have instilled within our family and that we're very proud of. And then recently, as being on the school board, I took an oath of office. And that is another thing that I have really upheld, is the integrity of that oath of office that I took as a school board member, because we did take an oath. And that is that you take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of California. It's very similar to the oath that you take. And you also take an oath to be confidential in certain aspects of your position, that you're open with the people, with what you can be open with, and that you explain, and I'm sure that you guys explain a lot of things to people because the laws are different. There's a lot of different laws. In the school board, there's 110,000 now ed code laws that we have to follow, in addition to the government code laws. And by no means do I know them all, but when I'm questioned on one, I find out what it is. So the first thing that I can bring with myself is that of integrity to this city council position. The second is that within my own personality and my temperament is that I'm very calm and collective. Part of that has to do with my own personality, but another part of it has to do with my training. By training, I'm a surgeon. I do trauma surgery, and I must be calm and collective in that, and that carries over into what I do. And no matter what it is, it carries over into the school board. So oftentimes, it's very hard for me to lose my cool and to lose my composure, because in my personal job, if I do that, that could mean that my patient dies. And so I deal with life and death situations in my profession. So when I come to a situation within my school board or other things like that, and I don't react, I'm sort of the school board, the other school board members call me the steady Eddie. Nothing really affects me, and I don't show a lot of emotion. And it's not that I don't have emotions, it's just that I don't show them a lot. So with that, I'm able to not overreact, and I make very rational decisions when I make decisions. And then finally, the other thing is, by training, I'm a scientist. I make informed decisions. I look at every bit of detail and every bit of data before I make a decision. And if I don't have enough, I postpone the decision before I make a decision. And so that is the type of person that I am, and those are the types of characteristics that I can bring to the city council. Sort of give you a little bit of who I am and what I do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For the record, you hit 5 minutes on the button.
Of course.
Questions of Dr. Pulsifer?
No, I do. I'm going to ask you the 10-year question, because you've been here
Okay.
quite a while.
I've been here 15 years.
Yeah. Where do you see Temecula in 10 years?
I think that we're at a point where if we don't make some decisions as to addressing some key issues here, we're going to outgrow what infrastructure we have. And it may cause a lot of problems. Right now, we already see overflow of traffic into our side streets if there's an accident on the I-15. And to get from the south part of town to the north part of town, if there's an accident on the I-15, it's faster to go all the way out to Butterfield Stage and go all the way to the north part of town rather than to try and get on the I-15 or go up Inez or Margarita, because the traffic is going that far. And that's just if there's a single accident. So I think that if we don't address the traffic issues soon, that people will not want to live here if it's gridlock all the time. So I think that's one thing that we have to address soon. I think that Temecula will continue to be a place that people want to live because of a number of different things. Number one, it's a family community, and that's why we moved here. It was a family community. It mirrored the community that we moved from. We moved from Plano, Texas, which was a family community, centered on the family. And that's what Temecula is. It's centered on the family, and we found that. And if we continue to do that and center it on the family, then I think it'll continue to be that. The other thing is it's growing in tourism and things of that nature, which was talked about earlier. But let's not forget the families. And so I think that in 10 years, if we concentrate on the families, it'll continue to be Temecula. It may be a little bit bigger, but it'll continue to be the Temecula that we know. So,
Any other questions?
Can I
Dr.
tell you a
Paul?
secret?
Thank you.
I want to tell him a secret.
Go ahead.
It's a lot easier to be on the council than it is the school board.
thank you.
I don't think
Marianne.
that's a secret. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Next.
The next applicant is George Frederick Xavier Rumbach.
Good evening. It's nice to see you again.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. We've seen each other a few times in City Council. Welcome to the City Council, Mr. Rayan. The last election, I decided not to run. The two previous elections, I decided not to run because I didn't want to try and displace any members of the council who I thought were doing a competent job. What was the excuse for me to run if if there wasn't a reason to do that? When Councilman Roberts decided that he was going to retire, I thought, well, okay, it's a different story. It's my plan on serving, and then you were out there ahead of me, and you got his endorsement, and I knew you from the quarry aspect, and I said, he'll be a competent member. No, George, just wait back, and then we have the recent vacancy. I'm not going to go into my resume and or go over the application. Knowing you, all of you, from prior encounters, you've done your homework on that. What I'm going to tell you is how somebody several decades ago who graduated dead last, his class 480, is here. My parents were told I was so mentally deficient that I should be institutionalized, because back then the local education didn't know how to deal with dyslexia and the handicap. If you couldn't read right and you couldn't spell right, you were dumb. And I spent a lot of years being called dumb. When I got back off of active duty, I said, I don't think I'm dumb. And I went into our local education system, and thank God for a woman by the name of Mrs. England, who was dyslexic, and she recognized the problem. She taught me what she had done to cope with the disease, and she actually took me by the hand and took me out to doctors, and her system of grading all helped, and I went on to the bachelor's degree and the master's and the law degree and a doctorate and all that, you know what. I went on to a career where I built a semi-national firm, CPA firm. After I merged that, I went into doing basically sole practitioner work. And I started my law aspect with Sir Speedy, the instant printing franchisor. I was brought in as the chief operating officer. They didn't tell me I was also running a small law firm. I was trailing 110 cases all over the country. Wow. I lost one because I didn't follow my own rules. I went on, got more involved, never got the bar card because when I went to the local law school, they told me what courses I should take. I said, I'm not here for a quote, law education. I'm here because I need to know how to handle litigation. Yes, contracts I'll take, but you can keep torts and you can keep crimes. I want civil procedure and effective litigation. That came back to haunt me. The Bar Association wouldn't let me take the bar exam because I never took the courses in the right order. I said, if I can pass the exam, why in this case? So I don't have a bar card. But I've been involved in litigation, and there aren't many lawyers who have published decisions, as your city attorney can tell you. I've got 4. How does a non-bar lawyer end up with a published decision? Attacking things a different way. I was ready to retire, but I'm not really a retiring personality, and I felt because of the start that I got, I owed back to my community, the community at large. That got thrown by the wayside. My late wife developed a very late stage ovarian cancer, and she passed, and that pretty well wiped out a very comfortable estate, pretty close to it. But she did one of the most wonderful things. Excuse me. Excuse me. One of the most wonderful things you could ever see. She wrote a profile on me and posted it on Match.com.
Oh my gosh.
She did it. And somebody who I know at least 3 of you know well, because she had a restaurant just down the street, saw that thing and said, give me one of those. I want one of those.
Dr. Rombach, I'd love to listen to you for hours, but your time is up. If you could just summarize, please.
I would hope to say, I would love to have you see, I want one of those.
A fitting ending. Thank you. Question? You've said it all.
Match.com, really?
It's wonderful.
Really?
Did not know.
I resisted being on there, but when your wife is dying, you're not going to argue with something like that. After she was gone, I guess it was a year, I never did anything about it. I never took it seriously. And Suzanne calls and said, I want one of those. Her youngest son, G. Wonderful, her eldest son, G. Wonderful, her youngest son, said, you're kidding. You've had a husband and everything was great. You don't need to do that. And he gave her a whole list of things like, don't give me your phone number, don't give me your address, and a whole list of things. And she told me about it and said, I agree with him.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
Anything else?
Nope.
I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next applicant is John H. Talicio.
Mr. Telesio, good evening.
Mr. Mayor, and council members, and citizens of Temecula, thank you for having me. I want to take the opportunity to, again, thank you for inviting me, and I did enter into the system a pretty full package of applications, so I'm not going to dwell on much of that, but what I want to do tonight is discuss the way I came to put this little talk together. I looked to you people to find out what the difference was between you and those people who didn't ever come to where you are now, that didn't succeed in elections. I found that I had a certain amount of characteristics that are the same as you have. I know what most of you have known for 15 years and more. Mr. Ron recently met. But I find that by matching or trying to match the characteristics and qualities of the city council and the successful city council, then maybe that would make a new city council member out of me. And what I found was that there's the desire to serve, there's the time to serve, demonstrated leadership ability, education and training, experience in work ethic, proven independent judgment, and all of those are uniquely suited for the position you hold, and one that I would like to hold. So I tried to match up what I was doing with that, and to answer the question of why me, see where I fit into those things. First of all, the desire to serve is because you love this town, the way I love this town. When I had my last assignment in my career in the Air Force at March Air Force Base, I was the executive officer there when I retired. Part of that job was to go to the different communities, to the city councils, to the organizations, and find out how they did things. If there were conflicts with what we were doing, we tried to match those up and solve them. I did get to see some pretty bad councils and some pretty good councils. And so from that, I got some experiences the way a good council would operate and remember back to those times. And I see none of that here with regard to the bad councils. Things that you've been doing have created a city here that I'm proud to live in and my family's proud to live in. Anyway, you would think that logically I would want to live near the base, having those distinct responsibilities of the area, but I didn't. I moved to Temecula because I knew Temecula from my years in school in Fallbrook. I wanted to bring my family there, and I did. And that was 35 years ago. We're still there, same house. We've been active in the community since then. One of my first activities that I thought would lead to something great was the Temecula Incorporation feasibility study, which we started in 1987. If you remember Les Adam, the gentleman that began it, and I worked with Les until he left town. Unfortunately, we didn't get anywhere with that other than to find that it was feasible. And that's when Mr. and Mrs. Temecula, Peg Moore, and her husband Jimmy came in and picked up the challenge and took it home and got it the city to where we are today. After incorporation, I and Mike Nagar and I used to commiserate why we couldn't get on a commission. For application after application after application, we never could get on a commission, and finally, I got on the traffic commission. Maybe a year or so later, Mike was on the planning commission, and we began to serve in those capacities. Now I want to be on a different capacity. I've got 18 years practice on commissions, and I'd like to be on a policy-making board here and do some more for the city in a different capacity. I've got the time. I'm retired 3 times. Finding my own boss, at least my own boss, without regard to honey-do lists, which I have plenty of at home. And I'm not looking for a job or a higher office or anything like that. I want to be and intend to work full-time at being the best councilman I can be if you make that selection. Leadership is an important factor in what you do, and I've learned, starting from my 21-year Air Force career, that leadership comes with time and experience. I was an enlisted man, I was an NCO, and I was a commissioned officer. In those ranks, the increased pressure of leadership increases with time and rank, and not the least of which was leading flights during my 117 combat missions over North Vietnam. I was one of the youngest flight leaders selected to do that sort of thing. Not that it was an honor, but it was a job, and it was a recognition of the ability to do something and the desire to want to get it done right. After retiring, I served as district office manager for state senator at the time, Marion Bergeson, for about an hour and a half until I got a job with the county. And I started working with the Board of Supervisors, where I stayed for 8 years. In that capacity, I've served on many boards and commissions and ad hoc committees. And while I was doing that, I was working with Temecula Citizens Group, planning the review for the general plan. Did that twice. Served as several terms as chair or co-chair of both the Temecula Public Traffic Safety Commission and the Planning Commission.
Your time is up, if you could just summarize.
Okay, independent judgment, I was going to get to that, but you've got that, I have that. Education and training, I've indicated that with a BS in political social science, Master of Public Administration, Master of Systems Management, and all of those I'd like to bring to the county, or to the city council, and put it to work the way I would like to see it work.
Thank you, Mr. Tillis.
Thank you.
Questions?
No, I would just like to say that I enjoyed serving on traffic and safety with you, and I was really disappointed when you left. And you've done an admirable job on planning. And has it turned out the way that you thought it would in 1987?
Not at all. I came to Temecula when it was a little one-horse town, relatively speaking. I remembered it before that when I was in school in Fallbrook. This was the only place that had an all-night restaurant, believe it or not, within a 30-mile radius. And we'd spend a lot of time in Temecula. But I never, of course, there was no freeway at that time.
Right.
Once the freeway started, everything changed. And it has, since that point, developed exponentially. So I'm happy the way it's gone. I'm happy the way council members before you and with the present council have done the job. And there's nothing more I want to do than be a member, sit about right over there, like Mr. Washington used to sit.
Matt, did you have anything?
Yeah, just real quick, John. so I mean, you've got a perspective that I think is really valuable for the city. So if you had to pick, what do you think the biggest opportunity moving forward is for Temecula?
As far as growth or as far as direction, we would dearly love, and I'm sure every one of you agreed, to have an educational center here beyond what we have already. And I know there are plans in the works and people working towards that goal. Growth-wise, I think controlled, intelligent growth is something that we can never look away from, but I stress intelligent. And we have a lot of opportunities, even though we're starting to infill now. We're being very careful about what we infill with and being careful of the quality of the developments that are coming in to finish us up. We still have the opportunity to bring in additional areas, additional parts of the county that are adjacent to us, but we've got to do it wisely. We've got to do it with the ability to bring in tax dollars and commercial revenue, because we can't support additional rooftops without that. And that's one of the challenges that I'd like to look at. My degrees are in the Master of Public Administration with an emphasis in economic and community development. That's my interest. That's why I'm on the Planning Commission. And I have some definite ideas how we can improve that and make it the best it can be.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Telesio. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Lene Turley Trejo.
Good evening. We have one planning commissioner following another.
I know. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Comachero and Pro Tem Mike Nagar and Councilors Mary Ann Edwards and Matt Ron. Thank you so much for your diligence in appointing a new city councilor for our wonderful city of Temecula. I love this city. It's home. For almost 28 years, my husband and I have raised our 4 sons here. As their mother, I wanted the very best for my boys in terms of the community they lived in, the schools they attended, and the extracurricular activities they were involved in. So I rolled up my sleeves and I became involved. I have invested my time and talents into making Temecula an even stronger community. I have volunteered in the classroom, served in PTA leadership, served on the Citizen Scholarship Foundation Board, as outreach of the Interfaith Council of Murrieta and Temecula, and as the Director of Public Affairs for the LDS Church. As director, my council and I were able to pioneer community events that have stood the test of time, such as the Nativity Festival, Family Night Proclamation, Crystal Apple Award, Family First, Fam Nights, family activities on Mondays, special games, helping hands, and better together. I understand how to move people with a vision and get the job done. These events strengthen individuals and families and continue our tradition of excellence in Temecula. I really can't imagine living anywhere else. My daughter-in-law said to me a couple of years ago, "You can't ever move from Temecula. You helped build this city." I love seeing the handprint walls at all of the elementary schools. Serving as PTA president at Red Hawk Elementary in 1992, we helped to establish that tradition. I had 3 boys attending Red Hawk at the time, and our entire family has our handprints on that special wall. I am standing here tonight because I know that as a city council member, I can make a difference in people's lives for good. Everything I do is with a purpose. I am determined, passionate, goal-driven, and loyal. I believe in people working together for the greater good to make a stronger community. I believe in building relationships. I am willing, capable, and committed to do what it takes to maintain and improve our quality of life we have here in Temecula. People are better off when they have commitments to God, family, community, work, and responsibilities. Currently, I enjoy serving as vice chair on the Planning Commission. I have jumped in with both feet to learn all that I can and to vote for what is best for the families in Temecula. I will bring that same commitment, desire, and work ethic to the City Council. I may be new to city government, but I am not new to commitment, taking responsibility, volunteering, and hard work. There are 3 focal points that I would like to address and improve upon while serving as a city council member. The first one is traffic. When we moved here, there was 1 stop sign and 1 stoplight. Over the years, our small town has grown into a well-planned city. However, we have some challenging traffic issues. I will work hard with staff on mitigating these issues while striving to keep our small town feel. Number 2, working together with the Temecula Valley Unified School District. Having been a substitute teacher in Temecula for 7 years and a volunteer in the local school district, I have a unique perspective of how the city of Temecula and the TVUSD can work together for families in this community. I will work hard to continue to build and strengthen that most important relationship. Number 3, a safe, family-friendly community, including our special needs friends. I work as an American Sign Language interpreter. I have seen firsthand how important it is to provide equal access and equal opportunities to people with special needs. I will work hard to include our special needs friends and maintain Temecula's strength as a safe, family-friendly city. I bring a fresh, new perspective to City Council. I am prepared with insight, wisdom, and experience to tackle the challenges that come before the council. I come because I love this city. I come because I am dedicated to making a difference in the lives of those that live here in Temecula. Great women and men are always more anxious to serve than to have dominion. I will bring positive energy, experience, dedication, and my love for the city to the table every week to work with each of you to take us into the next chapter of Temecula's history. Strong families make strong communities, and strong communities make a strong nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? You covered it all.
Okay.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
And for those of you who may be counting, the last one, right?
Alicia M. Wilkins.
Good evening, Ms. Wilkins.
Good evening, Mayor Comachero, Mayor Pro Tem Nagar, Councilmember Edwards, and Councilmember Ron. After sitting through 16 speeches, I wish I could offer you a shot of espresso before proceeding with my own. But since I don't have that, let me tell you what I do have to offer to the city of Temecula. What I do have is an unwavering commitment to this city and a desire to maintain its suburban, small town feel in its continued growth. My family and I moved here to the city of Temecula about 13 years ago. In fact, my son will be graduating from Linfield Christian High School this coming June. Matter of fact, his baseball coach is out in the crowd here. Eric Willis, he actually sits on the city's Community Service Commission. And my husband, Royce, is also here. He is a veteran who retired after serving for 24 years in the U.S. Navy. And Temecula is home for us, and in the 13 years that we've been here, which is no small feat when you are a military family because you're moving everywhere. So to be able to say, no, this has been home for us for 13 years is really a big deal for us. I have worked in the field of government relations for the last 15 years, the last 13 of which has been with the focus on public policy issues dealing with women's health care. I have worked diligently to ensure that women continue to have access to health care throughout the state as well as here locally. Healthcare like breast cancer screenings, cervical cancer screenings, screening and treatment, as well as well women's exam. In fact, in 1996, when then Governor Pete Wilson passed what's referred to as Family Pact, the Family Planning Access and Care Treatment Act, that essentially has been the program that I've worked very diligently to make sure that it stays intact so that women across the state can continue to have access to care. I also have the pleasure of representing my city and this region on the Commission on the Status of Women, the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. I was actually appointed by Governor Jerry Brown to this commission. In fact, after going through a very long and tenuous vetting process with them, I have a fond appreciation for our local government and the fact that things run a lot quicker at the local level. It's important to note that the Commission is a deliberative state entity that operates under the Bagley-Keene Act, which is the equivalent of the Brown Act at the municipality level. I say that just so that it's known that I am experienced and well-versed in governance in the eyes of the public. As a commissioner, I'm responsible for approving the budget, allocation of funds to various programs. I'm appointing individuals to our state sexual assault committee. This commission is unique in that it has elected officials from the state legislature that actually sit on the commission as my fellow commissioners, including individuals like Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, who chairs the Women's Caucus, as well as Senator Carol Liu, Assemblywoman Nora Campos, and Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia. And we all worked together to move the commission's agenda forward. This governance experience, coupled with all the vast experience that I have in government relations, as well as the strategic partnerships that I've managed to develop on the state level with state leadership like Speaker Atkins, Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, the chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus, as well as the state controller Betty Yee and Fiona Ma from the Board of Equalization, are all skills and relationships that I would like to tap into to move the city's agendas forward, because we do work so much with regional organizations as well as the state. Things that I would like to work directly on, for example, are tapping into resources with the state treasury's state tourism commission to elevate the city of Temecula as a top tourist destination, really capitalizing on the fact that we have so many attractions here, including, you know, our Old Town area, our wineries, our local casinos, really truly making the city of Temecula kind of like the Napa Valley of the South. I'd also like to implement what I refer to as a buy local program. 1/3 of our city's residents, you know, commute outside of the city for work. And to me, in my mind, my visual mind, I see that as dollars, you know, going north and south on the 15 every day. Just
Ms.
to give
Wilkins,
you.
will you summarize, please?
Absolutely. The council is made up of individuals that are extremely knowledgeable with local expertise that I appreciate and I value. And it's my desire to add to that local expertise my experience in governance, in public policy, and strategic partnerships that I have at other levels to move the city's agendas forward.
Thank you. Questions? Matt?
I know it's hard to do in just 5 minutes to explain all your ideas, but I was intrigued by your statement on the buy local issues. Can you expand on that for a bit?
Yeah, as I was saying, about 1/3 of the city's residents are commuters, and that means that, you know, they're spending money on gas, spending money on lunch elsewhere. And just to give you a ballpark figure, theoretically, if we have about 10,000 commuters that are commuting, let's just say on a Monday, like today, outside of the region, and they're spending, let's say, $10 on average on lunch, that's $50,000 in one day. And I see that as money that's not going back into our local businesses, money that's not going, you know, back into our, you know, our local government. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to push that.
Oh, thank you.
Marian?
I appreciate all your experience at the state level and the county level. Have you found our relationship with California League of Cities and organizations like WRCOG?
While I don't have any relationships with them directly, I am definitely familiar with each of those entities and, of course, the priorities that each of those entities have, including, you know, for example, you know, the redevelopment funding that was taken away and the importance of that to our region and our local municipalities. So I'm definitely familiar with each of those agencies.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Wilkins, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nagar, comment?
Are we, well, so I'm not out of order. Are you taking us to the next discussion? Where
We
are
have
going?
2 speakers.
Oh, we do.
So
Thank you.
if you would call those speakers, please, and then we'll get into council discussion.
Great. The first speaker is Carol Haley.
Evening,
Good
council
evening.
members, councilwoman. Thank you for hearing me this evening. My name is Carol Haley. My husband and I have been residents of beautiful Temecula for 15 years now. We have 2 children in middle school at Margarita Middle School, which we thoroughly enjoy. But I'm coming before you tonight to share with you my concerns and my disapproval of one of your applicants, Mr. Alan Pelsifer, as president of the school board here. I would imagine you're aware of the audit that took place and that there's been a misappropriation of funds that was discovered, which was supposed to be allocated for special ed students back in 2014. So I come before you to speak to you to make a decision based on integrity and character, and he might be a good person and a wonderful physician, which we value very much. However, somebody that's going to make decisions for our community and who I would feel have the best interest for us and the rest of our residents here in the area, I don't trust his judgment if there's 40 members on this panel that voted to take this misappropriations of funds and pay themselves. If you don't mind, can I please read something that is written on it? It would give you a little more insight. It says, a year-long investigation by the California Department of Education into the Temecula Valley Unified School District Special Education Department found a multitude of violations, including the following examples of improper use of funds designated for TVUSD special education students. 40 school district staff members who were not assigned to teach special education students received a portion of their salaries from special education funds during the 2013-2014 school year. A Temecula charter school to which TVUSD was required to provide special education funds received only 54.3% of the funds during that school year. And it says, one last note, in total, the CDE, which is the California Department of Education, issued 226 corrective actions and has given TVUSD a deadline of April 15th, 2015, which just passed, to provide evidence that all corrective actions have been completed, including repayment of the misappropriated funds. So I just come to you to request that this person may be not considered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the final speaker?
I have a speaker card here from Wayne Hall, and he is indicating that he...
Wayne, I've never seen you speechless. 2 times. In how many years? Thank you. Okay. And no other speakers?
No other speakers.
Okay, then we will open it up for council discussion. Mr. Nagar, lead us off.
Thank you. And I'm really interested to hear what my colleagues have to say. I have my opinion. I'm going to restate a few things. At the beginning of the process, when we decided to go ahead and do interviews, I stated then I wasn't really comfortable. I would have rather had an election. Of course, it's probably the prudent thing to do is try to save the $150,000 that it would take to conduct a special election. We certainly can put the funds to better use somewhere else. And so we'll step up to the plate and make a decision and try to choose the best candidate. In trying to choose the best candidate, oh boy, how can somebody come up here and present themselves in 5 minutes and qualify for a city council position? There's just so many questions I wanted to ask everyone. Frankly, if I asked all the questions I wanted to ask, we'd have to have 3 more meetings. We'd be here that long. But having said that, we have a lot of fine candidates put in application. We really did, and I wish I can go through every single one of them and thank you for applying. Because some of you I know very well, just from seeing you in the community. Others I haven't met at all, and I'm listening to you, and I'm enthralled with some of your points of view, and some of you were a little more soft-spoken than others, and certainly all have something to offer. How can somebody make that decision in 5 minutes? So I find that I have to go to somewhat of a comfortable place. It's just that simple, somewhat of where I know I can make the best decision for the citizens of Temecula. So just in talking or just wanting to point out a few people, Mr. Rombach, I always love hearing you speak. You're such a patriot. I'm not surprised that you put your hat in the ring. You're such an honest man. You come here when things are important to you. And then, of course, you're always not hesitant to come back and lift us up and thank us and kind of bolster us up. So I always wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for that. Of course, we see Mr. Bradley there. Mr. Bradley, how can anybody fill your shoes? I mean, they're so large. Your spirit walks through the city hall. There's no avoiding it. And of course, Mr. Talicio, true servant of the city. I can go on and on. There's, Mr. Dodson, I see all over town. Whenever there's a burger to flip or trash to be picked up or anything to do, call Chip Dodson, and he's there to do it. You're just an amazing community servant. Of course, Ms. Trejo supported you strongly to the Planning Commission. People who heard you speak here tonight obviously were impressed with how you spoke, and that's why I supported you to the Planning Commission, and I never once regretted that decision a few months ago. You know what, I can go on and on, but I would belabor the point. I just wanted to kind of lay a foundation and tell you, since I feel I have to go with something comfortable, I would say for me, okay, the person that I feel most comfortable with who's been around a long time, and I know that would just sort of catch the spirit of what we're doing is Chief Mike McCracken. I just know, I just know his servant's heart. Again, if somebody leaned toward Rod and Bradley, you know what, we couldn't go wrong, to be quite honest with you. If somebody leaned toward Mr. Talicio, he certainly brings some institutional knowledge. But for overall purposes and filling our need here today, I just think Mike McCracken does the job. So.
Well, this was really difficult and in one respect and joyous in another. I've made copious notes, and I have so many stars by so many people's names. There's a lot of material out there. There are a lot of future commissioners. There are a lot of future leaders that I would like to see more involved with the city. And so you're going to be hearing from me about volunteering for other things. And I agree with Mike. This was very difficult. And it's hard to sit here and judge people that you've known for 15, 20, and sometimes almost 30 years. The passion was remarkable, and I think part of what we do requires a lot of passion for Temecula, and I think it shows. Mr. Talicio, you have been a faithful, knowledgeable, qualified servant since the first time I met you on the Traffic Commission, and we can't thank you enough for your level-headedness and everything you've done. I wasn't quite aware of the history and how much you had to do with Temecula before it even became a city, and all the research and knowledge that you brought to the table, failing the first time and succeeding the second time. So you will have my unfailing gratitude, and you already have my respect for everything you've done. Mr. Bradley, there's nothing we can say about you that would in any way reflect your qualifications, what you've done for the city, and not only that, what you've done for the region. I always say it's total world domination, one step at a time. As we send Temecula's city staff members out to take jobs in other cities. So you have been a mentor and a great teacher for not only me, but for other people sitting on this dais, and for city staff as well. And I could go on and on. Lene, our kids grew up together, and I've seen you from the first days working at PTA in school, and what you have helped the Mormon Church do in reaching out and just helping hands in itself to gather 300 people together, everything from 2-year-olds to grandma and grandpas, to work on a project and see that project finished in one day. It's been an amazing thing to watch. So your contributions to the community are unparalleled as far as, you come from the same background I come from. Grassroots, schools, kids, teams, church, and your passion for Temecula just shines through. And Mr. Rombach, match, really? I love that story. And I think you've put some pressure on this council to think about some things. And on my notes I wrote, very likable, not afraid to push the limits. And you are not afraid to push the limits, and we need that in this community. It keeps us on our toes, so thank you for that. And anybody that can, stay with Suzanne and put up with her energy for all these years, she is... The first time we came to Temecula was probably 1987, 88, was the first place we stopped, was at the Silver Spoon. And I think I had biscuits and gravy. I can't remember, but it was really good. So a long history we have with Suzanne. I'm still going up and down this list, just nodding, shaking my head. Fabulous people, where have you been? You've, arm in arm, you could have been working with us arm in arm on all steering committees and projects, and I want to see that. If you came up here and you applied for this, if you filled out an application, I want to see more of you. I want to see more of you being involved with the city and being visible. We've got lots of things that you can serve on and things that you can volunteer for, so come up and see us afterwards. I giggled when you said Michael McCracken, because I was here when they first came, and I can't remember, it was 2005, and I was a new council member, and I just remember the thought of them working in the heat in the sports park in 110-degree heat, and it was miserably, miserably hot, and it wasn't dry heat, it was humid and sticky. And I ended up taking them ice cream bars when they broke for lunch, and they had to cook their own food and plan their lunch and do everything on their own. And they'd already worked the entire morning, and I took them ice cream bars for lunch, and I sat down with Michael and found out a little bit about him. But more importantly, I got to learn about the people that he worked with and that he mentors. And what that man meant to these candidates for chief was amazing to me. So the stories that they shared about being on board ship with him and everything that he had taught them, that spoke volumes. And Michael and I have been friends ever since. And I've seen his leadership, quiet, behind-the-scenes leadership on so many things, including Community Services Commission, the same leadership that he demonstrated working with those chief petty officer candidates. So I have a circle on my list, and I have circled Michael McCracken.
Dr. Ron.
All right. Well, I don't have anything. No.
Okay, you don't have to.
I was really hoping, I saw 18 names on this list, and I was really hoping within our first few months of this year we would beat the record for the longest meeting, but it doesn't look like we're going to be there, and I'm not sure I can fill that many hours with just, I could give it a shot.
You don't have
but
to.
I don't have to. Okay. There's a handful of things I wanted to say. One was, I appreciate everybody coming out here and especially all the folks who put their hat in the ring. It's a very difficult thing. I understand the process, and I understand what it takes to be able to put yourself out there publicly and receive both the accolades and the criticism, because that's really what this job entails, is really understanding what it means to be a public servant and really understanding how to find that balance that's necessary to be able to properly, I think, represent our community. I appreciate everybody coming out here tonight, and for whatever reason, I appreciate it. This is why I fell in love with Temecula, right? The community is not afraid to get involved. The community is not afraid to speak up, and it's probably one of the best organized and passionate communities I've ever seen. And so that's absolutely one of the things that makes Temecula such a wonderful community to live in. So thank you all for your participation in this process. I said it before, and I'll say it again, even though I think the mayor disagrees with me, but I'm thrilled with the prospect of no longer being the new guy. I expected
Not
that
fair.
to be, a little bit longer of a process, but if I can manage that in the first 4 months, that's just fantastic.
Took me 10 years.
But in thinking about that, I mean, it was quite a process for me to get here today, and recognizing that we had such a legacy of leadership and folks at the dais that I think sets a very high standard. It's one of the things that makes the city very competent and good at what they do, is we don't have a lot of internal struggle. I think, a lot of folks will look at the council and say, well, it's a 5-0 council. They just vote on things together. And in fact, I know now that that's absolutely not the truth. The truth is that the council and the staff that we have to work with at the city are by far some of the best folks I've ever had the opportunity in 20 years to work with. And so having them be able to walk through the process, we have the dialogues, we have outstanding subcommittees and representation. Really, the reason why you see a lot of unanimous votes is because we've ironed out a lot of the issues and the problems, and we choose not to air grievances at the dais. Instead, I think what we do is we try and be that problem solver and the opportunity to bring forward, solid, good leadership that shows the residents, I think, too, that we have the confidence in the decisions that we make together. And it's not to say that we won't disagree in the future. I'm sure we will, but we do it very respectfully, and I appreciate this evening too. And it speaks highly to the city of Temecula and the residents that everybody came forward, and even though we might have differences of opinion, it was all handled respectfully and professionally. With all that said, I would say, echo a lot of the same names that we've seen here tonight. Mr. Bradley. Wow, just an outstanding career of service. I wish I had known you while you were city manager, because the legacy here still resonates in the hallways, even though it was a different hallway at the time. It transferred over. I have to say, Mr. McCracken, where did he go? Where's he sitting? Oh, there you are. You're in the back. I can't see you. Mr. McCracken, over the last couple of years, getting to know you has been a wonderful opportunity. Your service, absolutely a tribute to the city and definitely to the country as well. I'd also say Mr. Rombach, just wonderful presence, wonderful to have at the city council meetings, and I think, just a great intellect and mind for problem solving as well. Mr. Talicio, obviously the legacy of leadership and service to the city of Temecula has been considerable, and I think that legacy is so important that we don't, we have that slogan of old traditions, new opportunities, and I think you share both of those spirits. And Lene also, I know we've only met a handful of times, but a tremendous respect for what you've done and the service you've provided to the community. And definitely you have gained the respect of people that I respect quite a bit, and so that means a lot to me as well. And so, that's my list of top contenders. I don't know how do we arm wrestle now? I'm not sure how we do this, but I'm ready to arm wrestle if we have to. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. I guess I get to speak after all. But wow, there's 17 people who spoke tonight, and in going through and making my own little marks on all of those that I would feel very, very comfortable sitting up here with, I have 10 of those 17. That doesn't mean I didn't like the rest of them.
Yeah, me
but that's remarkable when you think about it. Everyone has said so much of what we all feel. I'm not going to rehash all of it. I would like to say, Mr. Bradley, Dr. Ron said he wishes you had been the city manager when he got here. Well, you were the city manager when I got here, and what you taught me was incredible. I remember the day after I was elected, coming in and sitting in your office and having you tell me what the job was all about and thinking to myself, oh gosh, do I really want to do this? And that was after the election. But in the, let's see, I guess it was about 3 years that we served together, maybe a little bit less than that. I can honestly say when it comes to being a city council member, you taught me everything I know, whatever that is. And I appreciate that, and I will always appreciate that. One of the things that didn't get said is that, you know, an awful lot of the people on this list of 17 people, we know. We've known for a lot of years in some cases, and in some maybe a little bit less. Clearly, when we look at filling a council term that has 1.5 years to go, that means a lot. It means that we know what to expect in who we appoint. But having said that, of those I've never met before, I have to tell you that there are 2 of you who impressed me tremendously, and that's Dr. Broyles and Eric Levine.
Yeah.
And hang around, guys, if you don't get this appointment. Don't get lost, because an opportunity will come, and you deserve it, and the city needs people like you, among so many others. I wasn't going to talk about everybody, but John, great time on the Planning Commission and traffic safety before that. Lene, you won for best presentation of the night. That was a stellar speech.
I'm not surprised.
So having said all that, where does it all land? For me, I think that there is, well, I don't think, I know, that when you take all the experience out of the equation and assume that we have a goodly number of people who can fill the role based on their experience and skill set, what else becomes important? And I have said it many times, both publicly and privately, that almost all it takes to be a good council member is to love this city and have a heart. And I don't mean just a beating heart. I mean a heart for what you do, and that love for the city shows. And I can't think of anybody I'd rather see up here that fills that role than Mike McCracken. And Mike, I would like to make that motion to appoint you to the city council.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No, not from here. Mr. Ron, how about you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Second. Go ahead.
No, I just lament that it was a very difficult
It's
decision.
just
That's all.
tough. It
Yeah.
says an awful lot
Right.
about this community,
Yeah.
that so many people who are highly qualified come out to seek this position and show a willingness to serve at this level. I think that's remarkable, and I commend all of you for it. And as Mary Ann said, and I just said, please stay engaged, all of you, because you're the
Please.
people that make the city what it is.
May I say one other thing?
Certainly.
I believe right now, if the period hasn't closed, there's a application period for the Planning Commission. I believe, what's the other opening? Is Community Services right now?
I
or-
believe it's Old Town Local Review Board and
It will be
the-
community services.
And yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I speak for everybody here that I think some of the applicants here tonight, we're hoping to see as applicants for
yeah.
for those openings.
Okay, with that, let's cast your votes.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, I'd like to clarify that you've made a motion to go ahead and select Michael R. McCracken to fill the vacancy, and that you are providing us with direction to bring the official appointment back on the April 28th meeting, complete with the staff report and resolution.
That is correct before we tally the vote, and thank you for the clarification. That is the process. That tonight is a recommendation that will come forward in the staff report at our regular meeting on April 28th, which is next Tuesday, at which time we will ratify that recommendation, or not, but presumably.
Casey, are you saying you may do something in the next 2 weeks that we change our mind?
You never know. Stranger things have happened.
I'd go on vacation. Mike, Mr. Mayor, may I request a voice vote?
You may, absolutely.
Thanks.
Will you call the roll, please? Yeah, I know, but for the record, I think it's a good idea.
No problem. Councilmember Edwards?
Aye.
Councilmember Nagar?
Yes.
Councilmember Ron,
Yes.
Mayor Comachero.
Yes. Mr. McCracken, come back next week. We got stuff for you to do. Wow. That does take care of the agenda for the evening, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn in just a moment. But again, thank you to everybody. It fills my heart to see this kind of participation in terms of quantity and, more importantly, quality. Just great people, and hang around. With that, any objection?
Move adjournment.
We'll stand adjourned.